$1 billion data center project in Kenya was supposed to offer the US a blueprint for how it could catch up with China. I went there and nothing is happening. This story is all about a data center that was announced to great fanfare last year, and the idea was that it would be launched in Kenya, a $1 billion data center that would bring together G42, an Emirati company, Microsoft, and the Kenyan government. It was announced when William Ruto, the Kenyan president, came to Washington last year. And the idea would be that Microsoft's Azure cloud services would be rolled out across East Africa, starting with this point in the data center in Kenya in the Great Rift Valley. It's this beautiful part of Kenya in a place called Olkaria. The plan was for the data center to be operational, the first phase to be operational in May of 2026. Now, I visited the site last month. Nothing is happening there. There are no construction workers there. They haven't broken ground. When I spoke to sources, and we've, as a team, spoken to sources in Nairobi, in the Gulf, and in Washington, what's become apparent is that really nothing is happening with this. It's completely stalled. It came together in a very geopolitical way. The US was trying to gain traction and catch up with China, but no one really put thought into how this was going to roll out as a business. In a funny way, this has been deprioritized because the Trump ambitions on AI are so much grander. The Stargate project in the US, projects overseas in more advanced economy, partnerships in the Gulf as well. When you put all of those together, the idea is that the Trump administration's plans just mean that it dwarfs whatever was planned for Africa. Africa really is just not being prioritized at all under this current administration when it comes to rolling out digital infrastructure. China has, over more than a decade, really looked to roll out digital infrastructure across Africa. Huawei alone is responsible for something like 70% of the 4G networks across the continent. In terms of what they do, China has used its companies as essentially an extension of the state. They go out and they work with African governments and African businesses, basically played the long game, and they started early, which is part of the reason why the US under the Biden administration saw Olkaria and this data center as a way to just try and begin to catch up. China sees it as being in its geostrategic interests to really make a play in Africa, winning hearts and minds when it comes to African governments with the general populations because they roll out digital skills and partnerships when it comes to educating the workforce in terms of digital literacy. And they see it as a long-term gain. So they don't worry so much about the business concerns, whereas the US model is looking at, well, the businesses that are going to try and operate on the continent will have to find a way to monetize this. And they're thinking more in terms of the short-term gains in terms of getting a return on their investment. And that is where there is a central tension here. You can tap the link in our bio to read the full story and sign up to get Semafor Africa in your inbox.